think he might need to be dragged up out of the cave? So he's been immobilized since childhood, which means what? All right. So he may not have muscle development in his limbs. So he may need to be dragged up. Why else might he need to be dragged up out of the cave?
Fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown. He's been in the cave so long. Why do I need to go outside of this cave? Everything I need is right here, right? So at first he'll be able to see darker shapes such as shadows. Why would he be able to see shadows? Why would that be the first thing he'd be able to see? Okay, because he's looking away from the light source. What else? What has he spent most of his time looking at in his life?
That's all he knows.
That's all he knows. That's shadows. So I don't know what, I don't know what that tree thing is you're talking about, but I know what this shadow is, right? A lot of times when we work with people and we ask why is their behavior not changing, it's mostly because they're doing what they know. I have an Uncle Tony, and Uncle Tony has spent more time in camp than he has outside in the real world. And when we talk about camp, we're talking about incarceration. So he's spent more time at camp than he has outside. And it's so funny because he spent so much time at camp, when he gets released to come out, what does he do? He reoffends so he can go back to what he knows, right? And so a lot of times we ask our employees to do a thing, or we ask them to take a step, and they find it difficult, or they'll go on their way for a little while, and at some point they deviate or go back to what they used to do, and we have a question why. And I want to say this is one of those answers. There are some other ones, but this is one of those answers. So he would first see these shadows. Then at some point he'd be able to see brighter and brighter objects. The last object he would be able to see is the sun, which in time he would learn to see as that. Why would he need to learn that the sun is the sun? If he spent all these years in the cave, when he steps out and he sees it, what do you think he calls it? Fire, right? He might call it fire in the sky. Now, what's the difference between calling something fire in the sky and knowing that it is the sun? What do you have to know to call that thing out there the sun and not just call it fire in the sky? You have to know the word. What else?
He's taught.
He's taught. So someone has shared some information with him. All right. What else do you have to know about where is the sun? Is it in the sky? It is? Where is it? It's in space. So what is space? Where in space is it? It's in our solar system. What's a solar system? It's planets rotating around the sun. So you mean there are other planets? Because you use the S word, so there are other planets, which means I must be on a planet. So all of a sudden, I went from calling that thing fire in the sky to understanding that there's a universe out there, that there are other planets, there are other places that people can be. There are things that are rotating and things outside of my knowledge. And all of a sudden, my little world becomes this great big world. So having understood all of that, is this freed prisoner the same person he was before he left the cave? No, he's changed, right? He's changed. Once thus enlightened, so to speak, the freed prisoner would no doubt want to return to free his fellow bondsmen. That makes sense, right? I'm now free. I know people who are held captive. I want to help them, so let me go back into the cave, right? How many people would go back? Raise your hand if you'd go back. All right. Yeah, you may have friends and loved ones back in the cave, and you said, I want to go back. So here's the problem. The problem, however, is that they would not want to be freed. The people in the cave would not want to be freed. Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. I have a salve that can heal this thing. I have a vaccine that can rid you of your problem. I can tell you the answer to all of the things that ail you and set you free. But they don't want to be free. Why?
Because they really don't know if that's the truth or not.
Because they don't know if it's the truth or not. What else? Fear. It's not comfortable, right? And to be quite honest, if I'm a chain polisher in the cave, do I want people free? No, I don't want people free because I'm going to lose my livelihood. If I'm a storyteller in the cave, and that's how I stack my pebbles, right? Do I want people free? So not only are there people who are being confined by this cave atmosphere, but there are people who are also running this cave atmosphere that also don't want individuals to be free or released. All right? But this person is determined to go back in and make this thing happen. The problem, however, is that they would not want to be freed. Descending back into the cave would require the freed prisoner's eyes to adjust again. And for a time, he would find, he would be inferior at the ludicrous process of identifying shapes on the wall. Why would he not be good at that any longer? And why would he find it ludicrous? Because he's seen the real deal. He's had an awakening, right? Are you guys familiar with Ludacris, the rapper guy? Yeah. Stand up. He does that thing, right? So they would find this, he would find this whole thing laughable and ridiculous because he has seen how things are different. He's seen the real world. This, however, would make his fellow prisoners murderous towards anyone who would attempt to free them. So they would rather kill this individual than to actually be free. Have we seen this in our society? Can you think of some historical ways that you've seen this play out? That rather than being free, people would rather kill the messenger than actually listen to the message? When I think about this, I think about Gandhi. And I think about how he single-handedly, relatively speaking, defeated the British and had them leave India. Gandhi went to the British Parliament and he talked with the overseer of India at that time and he said, "You will leave India. And when you leave, we will be friends." The British were like, "What are you talking about? The sun never sets on the British Empire. We've got all the manpower and we've got all the stuff. We can't. What are you talking about, Gandhi?" And Gandhi said, "We will be friends." And he left, right? And so what do you think happened? What does history say about what happened to the British Empire and their relationship to India? What happened? They left. And they kept diplomatic ties, just as Gandhi said. How? Why? One of the things that Gandhi knew that the British Empire did not necessarily know or remember or understand was that you can't make anybody do what? Anything. And so when you have millions of people refusing to do what you're asking them to do, you either have to turn up the heat or you have to get out of the kitchen. And so Britain decided to get out of the kitchen. But how did Gandhi pay for stepping outside of the cave? How did he pay? With his life. He paid with his life. Dr. Martin Luther King is another example that I think about. He said the world can be different. I've been to the mountaintop is what he says, and I've seen the promised land, and we can get there. And how did he pay for that? With his life. My question to you is it better to be the free person or the prisoner? You say free. What I'd like to give you some more information before I ask you to answer that question again. When you are the free person, what that means is that there will be people who are assigned to your life as your assassinators. Now, I'm not saying that you walk around with a red scope on you or anything like that, but there are people who will do character assassinations. Oftentimes you'll hear, particularly when I'm working with frontline staff, is that they'll be trying to change their behavior and the rest of their team will say, "Well, why are you acting like that? Why are you trying to be different? You are trying to impress so-and-so or so, and the person's like, no, I'm just trying to change how I do my work. And one of the things it also means is that when you are the person, the free prisoner, you will be outside of the norm, and you may be by yourself. And so the real question is, are you willing to be that leader, to step out and say to the person who's asking you to push a button, no, I'm not going to do that. Because there's some dangers to that. You might lose your reputation, or there may be a risk to your perceived integrity, right? But are you willing to do that? Are you willing to be the person to say, you know what, he said just build blocks. I'm going to build the kind of blocks that I want to build. I don't necessarily have to do what other folks are doing because I can do it myself. And one of the prime lessons that I've learned is that when you are being who you are, other people have to make decisions about who they want to be around you. Short story. Silver Lake. It's not too far from here, right up 65. And so I would go there as my private swimming hole. And when I would go there, I had, at that point in time, I had dreads, and they went down to about my elbow. So I don't know about you, but I'm a black person. I forgot to mention that. And so I don't like getting my hair wet because it does crazy things. And so I would put my hair in a big ponytail and tie it up. And I had this ritual that I would use when going to the lake. And I would get into about my knees and wait till, I got settled in. And then I get into about my waist. And then I would get into my ribs. And sometimes it was really cold. So I'm like, and so this particular day, there were these kids, about 6 or 8 teenagers, about, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 feet away, and they were splashing and laughing like they were in some kind of Coke commercial, and they were having just a good old time. And I'm standing there, and I start getting really angry. I get mad. Why am I getting mad? Because their splashing is getting me wet and getting my hair wet. And then all of a sudden, after I cooled my ears down and I started taking some deep breaths, I started laughing. And why did I start laughing? Because I'm standing in water and I'm getting wet. Which meant they were enjoying themselves. I was not going to change what they were doing, but that gave me an opportunity to look at my choices. And I had 2 choices. I could either what? Join in the fun or get out of the lake. All too often we have family members, we have friends, we have people around us, and we will have people give us this piece of bad advice, which is you have to cut those people off. You can't have those people around you. And what I would say is you hold on to your standards, your beliefs, what you know to be true and right, and they will fall off. They have the decisions to make, not you. As supervisors, your employees, the people around you in your personal life are all trying to get this safety, significance, and belonging. And our job is to give or create atmospheres where they can do this and be aware that there are these caves, these things, these fears, these dark places that people have that oftentimes keep them confined and bound in their minds. And part of our job is to help them figure out if they want to be in the cave or if they want to be outside of the cave. And if you choose to be outside of the cave, know that we have to be supportive of one another. And the way that we're supportive of one another is that we make sure that we give everyone their dignity and honor for being human. So let's go back to this the green card. What I'd like for you to do is we're going to take another 1 minute. And this time what I'd like for you to do is to draw a line on your card from top to bottom. So in between random and numbers all the way down. And from the number 82 all the way across your card. This time, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to do the same. I'll give you the same amount of time. But I want you to notice that where the number 1 is, the number 2 is, the number 3 is, and the number 4, And what you will find is that there is a sequential order. All right? So I'm going to give you the same amount of time. On your mark, get set, go. Do that same task, given that new information.
We start where we left off? Or?
You can start where you left off, or you can start at the beginning, whichever you prefer. And stop. How was that? How was the second time? Was it better? Yeah. As supervisors, we can ask employees to do incredible things, and they'll do it as long as we give them the appropriate structure in which to do it. Are these numbers random? Are they random? No, they're not random, right? There is a systemic way in which they're organized. But looking at it, it's easy to say that they're random because we don't. This is what I will say. The only history that there is the history you don't know, and that there is no chaos. There's just order that we can't understand. My name is Andre Cohen. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate being here. Thank you.